Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why sometimes you just know what someone is thinking, and other times you are completely lost? Well, today we're diving into how sure you are about your social guesses, and how that ties into feeling connected to others, and even what happens when things go a bit sideways in your mind, like with paranoia. So, the world of people is tricky, right? It is full of guesswork. We see a face, hear a tone of voice, and try to figure out what is going on inside someone else's head. It is like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're often not entirely sure if we're right. This study asks a really big question. How does our certainty about these social guesses affect how connected we feel to others? And what role does paranoia play? Think about it. If you are super sure about something you've guessed about someone, but you are totally wrong, that can lead to awkward situations. But what if you are just the right amount of sure when you are actually right? Could that actually help you build better connections? And how does paranoia, which is often about feeling like others might have bad intentions, mess with this whole certainty game? That is what our researchers wanted to find out across 2 studies. To tackle this, they designed a couple of experiments. They looked at how sure people were when making judgments about other people's emotions or characteristics. Instead of just asking people, how sure are you? They got clever. They had participants rate the probability of different options being correct, and then looked at the variation in those probabilities. Think of it like this. If you are totally unsure, you might give every option a pretty even chance. But if you are really sure, you'll probably give one option a really high chance, and the others very low. The less variation in their answers, the more certain they were. They did this with 2 kinds of tasks. One involved looking at pictures of eyes and guessing the emotion or mental state someone was feeling, that is the more ambiguous stuff. The other task involved guessing demographic characteristics like age or sex, which are usually a bit more straightforward. Participants also filled out questionnaires about how lonely they felt, how much social support they had, and how much paranoia they experienced. In the second study, they used a slightly improved version of the emotion guessing task and added another cool measure. They looked at something called hypothesis space reduction. Basically, after making their first guess, participants were given a chance to remove some of the wrong answers to increase their odds of being right on the next try, if they paid a small cost for each option removed. This was to see if people were willing to be less certain and gather more info to be sure. They also asked about delusion, like thinking more broadly. So, what did they find? First, the connection between certainty, accuracy, and feeling socially connected. It turns out just being certain isn't the key. Being certain is actually good for your social life only if you are also good at accurately guessing those mental states. This is huge. It means that when you are right about what someone's feeling or thinking, and you are confident about it, that makes you feel more connected. It's like you're on the same wavelength, but if you are certain and wrong, that doesn't boost your social connection. In fact, the results hinted that being certain and wrong might even be a little detrimental to feeling connected, although this trend wasn't always statistically significant. So, it's not about being sure for sure's sake, but about being sure when you are right. This makes a lot of sense. When we nail the social guess and we're confident, perhaps it makes interactions feel more genuine, making others feel understood. The second big finding that showed up in both studies was about paranoia. They found that people who scored higher on paranoia measures were generally more certain when making judgments about personal characteristics like age and sex. This is fascinating. It suggests that when people are experiencing paranoid thoughts, they might be quicker to make up their minds about others, especially on aspects that are more observable and less ambiguous. This could be them jumping to conclusions or having a hard time changing their initial impression, which are common patterns seen in people with paranoia. It's like their certainty dial is turned up a notch, particularly for these more concrete social judgments. Now, not everything perfectly replicated between the 2 studies, and that is normal in research. The researchers pointed out that the different sets of pictures they used for the emotion guessing task might have played a role. The first study used pictures that were a bit older and potentially more prone to stereotyping, which might have made certain cognitive biases, like jumping to conclusions, more likely to show up. The second study used more diverse images and was designed to be less ambiguous, and this might have reduced those biases. What does this all mean for us? Well, for starters, it highlights the nuanced relationship between how sure we are about our social judgments and our feelings of connection. Being justifiably certain when you are actually accurate seems to be a sweet spot for building strong social bonds. It's that feeling of getting someone and being confident in that understanding that seems to pay off socially. And for those struggling with paranoia, it suggests that their heightened certainty, especially in judging characteristics, might be a key part of how they navigate the social world. This research points towards how our internal state, like paranoia, can literally change how we perceive and judge the people around us, often leading to a firmer, perhaps even rigid, sense of certainty. The studies also give us clues about how to potentially help people who struggle with social connection or paranoia. If certainty can be adjusted, particularly if we can encourage more accurate certainty and less unjustified certainty, it might improve social functioning. Maybe things like metacognitive training, which helps people think about their own thinking, could be really useful. This research is a great step in understanding these complex social cognition processes. It reminds us that while the social world is inherently uncertain, how we navigate that uncertainty and how sure we are about our guesses has real consequences for our relationships and our mental well-being. It highlights that accuracy, when you are certain, is where the social connection magic happens. What do you think? Have you ever found yourself being super sure about someone, only to realize you were totally off track? Or maybe you felt that amazing click when your intuition was spot on. Let us know your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And before you go, remember to like this video if you found it interesting, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more deep dives into psychology, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.